Hi, everyone. I'm Bill Pito, and it's great to have you with us for this very special edition of the MSG 150 at Home presented by Chase. As Leon Rose, in his first sit-down interview since becoming the Knicks president, talks to Mike Breen.
It's a pleasure to welcome the new president of the New York Knicks, Leon Rose. Leon, thanks so much for joining us. Great to see you. But before we get started, I have to ask you, either you have the greatest apartment view in the history of Manhattan, or you have the greatest technical crew in the history of Zoom.
I have definitely the greatest technical crew in the history of Zoom. My wife and son, they set me up right.
Well, it's a pretty spectacular view. It's a little more than my bland white background here. Leon, you were named president on the 2nd of March, and it's been less than 4 months. And what we've seen, both the NBA and quite frankly, I don't think it's overly dramatic to say the country has turned upside down. First with the pandemic, the killing of George Floyd, the protesters, the riots. How is your family, their health, and how have they dealt with all this through all this really unprecedented time in our country?
I have to put my family and us on the back burner compared to what's going on in the country. First, the pandemic, which has taken so many lives. And we've, like everybody else, have just been listening to the medical and governmental entities as far as the rules and regulations that need to be followed. And, we've been hunkered down and just adhering to the things that we need to adhere to with regard to, the social unrest that's taken place. I think it's been said before that we here at the Knicks and MSG condemn racism, won't tolerate it. I'm proud to say that, when you look at the history of the Knicks and the hiring at the Knicks and look at last season as an example, you had African Americans in every high-level position from president on down to the assistant general managers. We've continued to try to maintain that. 3 of our top 5 executives are minorities. And, I think that is, something that right now we have to really listen, and we have to find ways to be part of the solution.
With regards with the social justice, the NBA has always been amongst the leaders in being leaders throughout that. Have you talked to the current Knicks, communicated with them about what they're going through, what their feelings, and what's going to be your approach in dealing with that going forward? Yeah,
Scott and I have stayed in touch with players on the team, and we support them in any platforms that they want to participate in, and we are supportive of them, and they know that we have that position. I mean, Scott just spoke the other day with Allen Houston to a group and expressed his personal thoughts, and also expanded on the fact that we support our players in that.
The other area that obviously it affected, as I said, in terms of the suspension of the season right after you're named. Now the big topic is the resumption of the season, but only for 22 teams. Were you disappointed that the league didn't go with the plan that would encompass all 30 teams, including the Knicks?
I was disappointed from the standpoint that one of my main goals walking in the door was to be able to evaluate the team and the situation, and in order to make decisions. Obviously, that got sidetracked as a result of the pandemic, and I would have liked to have that time, but we fully respect the decision of the NBA. As I said, the health and safety of the players and everyone involved is paramount importance, and so we respect that totally.
So the coronavirus completely changes your initial plan, and including evaluating the current Knicks roster, the players on the roster, and including evaluating the players who are eligible for the draft, whether it's coming out of college, whether it's coming from Europe. So how do you adjust in terms of continuing? What have you been doing to continue to evaluate without having the live games?
Well, I'll break it into a couple different groups. First of all, with regard to the draft, that's a process that goes on all year, and Scott and the scouts have been on that all year. And with regard to that, we've continued with our draft calls. We've reviewed a ton of film, and we are now currently Zoom interviewing the prospects for the draft. And we obviously missed out on an NCAA tournament. We don't know what's going to be for a combine, and we're going to make the most of it. And in a positive light, we have a lot more time. We were preparing as if we were drafting on June 25th. Now we have a lot more time in order to prepare that much more. With regard to our current players, I've personally watched a lot of film, had a lot of discussions with Scott and with others in order to get up to speed and to be in a position to be able to make the best decisions that I can. And hopefully we're going to have, the 8 teams that aren't in it, we're now discussing having OTAs, other team activities that potentially will allow us to get together and get some work in.
So Leon, you've been evaluating players your whole adult life from a different angle, from a different profession, obviously, as an agent. What was your approach as an agent when you were trying to figure out, okay, is this a young man that I want to represent?
The talent obviously is always of paramount importance. And then, beyond the talent, we're looking at the character, we're looking at who the person is, and we're looking at how the fit is. Because one of the things I always believed as an agent was I represented the client and the client represented me. And decisions were made based on that in who we got involved with. And we relied upon our relationships with NBA scouts. And now here I am sitting on the other end of the fence relying on the same people, but within our organization.
You don't know what position you're going to be in the draft yet, but have you felt like a strong way on the philosophy of, say, do you go best player available? Do you go to fill a specific need? Do you go, we want the most athletic player out there because the league athleticism is off the charts? Or do you go with a player with a specific skill set that is important to the league? Have you developed in terms of what you want going forward in terms of making those selections?
I mean, honestly speaking, I have not developed yet to that point. But I'm going to be relying heavily on my group and, having another 3.5, 4 months until we get there, I'll think I'll be very comfortable in making the call.
All right. Again, you can't say who you're thinking of picking, but just to whet the fans' appetite, have there been players that you've watched, have seen, or heard from your scouts that they really have they got their eye on a couple of guys that could have a chance to be special?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. This draft, there's a couple guys that might stand out, and then after that, I think that there is a lot of equality. I think that there is a lot of guys that are close with different skill sets, different positives, different negatives. So, but yeah, it's funny. Each scout, there's varying opinions, a lot more varying opinions than in past years.
Much more with new Knicks President Leon Rose on the MSG 150 at Home, presented by Chase. Wes, and that's William Wesley, to many known as Worldwide Wes, and that's your most recent hire. I believe the title is Executive Vice President and Senior Basketball Advisor. What's his role going to be?
Well, Wes is one of the most well-respected and connected people in the basketball community. And I just think he's going to bring so much to our organization in various areas. First and foremost, he's always been a great mentor to players, coaches, agents, just people. He's an incredible person who I've known for 40 years, over 40 years, really. And I just think that, as I said before, this business is built on relationships. It's built on how you treat people. It's built on working hard. It's built on all these characteristics that West possesses, and that I think getting someone of that stature, character into our organization is something that's going to benefit us greatly.
He's always been kind of this, to a lot of fans, this mysterious figure. Again, the nickname Worldwide West. And I believe years ago, I remember reading an article, the most influential man in basketball that many people don't know. So he's had that role as an advisor, an agent all these years. Now he's part of a franchise. Why now? Why has he decided to join you and be part of the franchise?
Well, I mean, to take a step back, I mean, he's been with me for the last 13 years at CAA, working as a consultant there with coaches, front office people, college coaches, and helping the entire sports department at CAA. He was an invaluable resource. And I think for him, the relationship that we have, the relationship and respect he has for Jim Dolan, he wanted to make a full commitment to this, to helping us do what we need to do. I'm thrilled to death that he's joining us, and I think he's going to be an incredible asset to the organization.
Will he have on his business card, Leon, will it say Worldwide West?
You'll have to ask him. We haven't gotten that far.
What are your expectations in terms of how many players from last year's team will be on this year's roster?
Well, I think, it's still a little early to call that, just because of how much time we have until the draft, until free agency, in order to fully evaluate. Some of those decisions come after the draft. Right now, I look at Mitchell Robinson and RJ, two young core pieces. I look forward to, working with Kevin. I think he's just starting to scratch the surface. Frank Ntilikina, given the right circumstances, I think can really prosper. And Dennis Smith, that's a special talent right there. And we have some solid veterans, and Julius coming back. When
you were an agent and you had a young player, and obviously in professional sports, there's no such thing as patience anymore. Everybody, fans, often front offices, they want immediate production. So it's hard to have patience. What drove you crazy as an agent when you had a young player that just wasn't quite there, but you felt maybe they're giving enough of a rope or enough patience for them to develop?
A great question, because as that's probably one of the things that I'm really going to have to work on this side, because as an agent, you want your guy to play. You want your guy needs to play to develop. So you're always looking at it in that manner. In the short time that I've been here, we've had a lot of discussions about players playing but having to be held accountable, and players, having to earn the minutes. So even though they may be younger players, there has to be a standard. There has to be accountability in order for them to grow and to improve. Instead, as an agent, and some philosophies might be allowing players to play through their mistakes. But I think there has to be a balance there. And as an agent, I didn't want any balances. I wanted them to play as much as they could. Sitting in the chair I'm sitting in now, there's going to have to be accountability. There's going to have to be standards, and there's going to have to be, learning by coming out of the game and sitting there and learning from watching.
And obviously, you can't just have all young players. You need to balance a roster with veterans that can teach. So often players will tell you a key to their development was not just the coaching staff or the team they were at, but the veterans that they were able to watch day in and day out in their work. So signing free agents is clearly paramount. In recent years, the Knicks have not been able to grab those elite free agents. They've gotten good, solid pros, but not the elite free agents. How do you turn that around? What we have to create is an environment where players are going to want to come here. And the way to do that is on the day-to-day with the players that we have, with the organization we have, and making sure that every aspect of that is going to be player-friendly. It's going to be
first class. We're going to work as hard as we can to show people that this is a place that you want to be at. I mean, we have the greatest city in the world. We have an iconic arena, and we just need to create a culture that people are going to want to be part of.
Scott Perry, who you've retained or given a contract extension to remain as general manager, you've had a long history with him and you have great respect and admiration. What are you looking for from Scott going forward?
I'm looking for Scott to be a good partner for guidance. I mean, he's an excellent executive that's been around for a long time. He's done a great job over the last few drafts. He's a proven veteran and a guy who I've always had a great comfort level with over the years. Keeping him and keeping the stability and us working together for the next year is going to be a great thing for the Knicks and hopefully for a longer period of time.
The MSG 150 at Home, presented by Chase, will have more with Leon Rose, the new Knicks president, coming up. Well, the next hire, Leon, is obviously enormous in terms of importance, and that's a head coach. You could elevate Mike Miller, who really did an extraordinary job under difficult circumstances during this past year. So that could be one way. But there's been lots of reports that there are 9, 10, sometimes seen some as many as 11 candidates that you might interview. What's going to be the procedure now for you in terms of hiring a next head coach?
Yeah, first I want to just say that I couldn't agree with you more. It was a short period of time, but what I witnessed before I was here and what I saw being around Mike Miller, first class, did a great job in a very difficult situation, and we're so appreciative of that. And Mike is the first person that we talked to we're setting it up in 2 phases. We're having shorter meetings, kind of break the ice with the various candidates, and then we're going to have full interviews with the candidates. And Mike obviously is one of those candidates, and that's going to we're anticipating that to go to mid to late July, and hopefully by the end of July make a decision whether it's to keep Mike or to go in a different direction. But it's very exciting. There's a lot of really great candidates that I'm not going to get into who the candidates are, but there's a lot of, it's exciting. I mean, we're looking at a lot of different people with a lot of different mindsets, philosophies. And, for me personally, this is educational, and I need to make sure that we go through this process and we dot every I and cross every T in order to make the right decision.
Are any particular characteristics a must?
We want to find the right leader that can develop our young players as well as hold everyone accountable and take us from development to becoming a perennial winner. We also want somebody that we think that will be collaborative with the front office and, someone that when you're in that huddle and you're looking in that coach's eyes, every player that's looking at him knows that person is driving the ship and going to get the job done.
How about style of play, Leon? There's always talk about this team has a certain identity. Is there a certain style of play that you would like to see, or do you let your head coach and his strength determine that? Do you let the personnel on your roster determine that? What about style of play, what you would like to see for your team?
I believe that that's a head coach's decision. We'll speak to him. We'll talk to him. We'll, create a team that will, fit into a style of play that the coach is going to be comfortable with. It's a two-way street and something where we're going to support the coach and the coach is going to support us. But personally, I'm not going to impose my own philosophy on style of play on the coach. That's going to be for the coach to decide based upon the personnel.
Now, you've been immersed in basketball your whole life. First as a young in high school and college as a player, then as a player agent all these years. But this is a completely new role, and you've stated that right from the start. First part of the question is, how did being a player agent help you now that you've been in the role for a while? How did it help you?
Well, I think being representing players for 25 plus years, you learn how to understand how players think, how they feel, what's important to them. And, I just think that, that is going to be invaluable and so helpful for me to be able to relate, understand, and to, do a really good job with that aspect of it.
Can you share any specific piece of advice that really clicked for you?
The biggest piece of advice was be yourself and go with your gut. That was probably the best piece of advice that I got. And I'm going to stick to that in my job.
Now, you grew up, as I mentioned, you played when you were younger, you Cherry Hill High School, understand Hall of Fame at Cherry Hill High School, played at Dickinson College. So you've been playing basketball. Basketball has been a part of your life your whole life. What made you fall in love with the game?
Back in the late 60s, early 70s, Big Five basketball was on TV every Friday and Saturday night, and that's all I watched. And I learned about the game watching, and, back then you could go out to the schoolyard and play, and, just that solitude and working something to get better every day. I just fell in love with doing that. And I was fortunate to have great coaches in high school and college that really had an impact on me and drove me to, just continue to be in love with the game.
Okay, Leon, final question. Knicks fans are as dedicated and loyal and hungry as any fan base in the world. What's your message to Knicks fans?
No one deserves a winner more than Knicks fans. I know it's been tough, but my pledge is we are going to work tirelessly. We are going to do business. We are going to be prudent. We're going to be creative. And we're going to be in play in every aspect, the draft, trades, free agency. And we're going to build this the right way to bring you a winner.
Leon, know you're busy. You got a lot of work to do. You've been busy throughout with this crazy times. Thanks so much for your time. Best of luck, and we look forward to seeing you down the road.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. And congratulations to you on that prestigious award, Kirk Gowdy Award. Really something special.
Thank you, Leon. Thank you.
Mike and Leon, thank you so much. And as always, this friendly reminder from our friends at NYU Langone Health: follow all the safety reminders to stay safe and healthy. Thanks for watching the MSG 150 at Home presented by Chase. We'll see you next time, everybody.